12-year-old black boy accused until his mom, the governor, shows up. What starts as a simple game of basketball turns into a terrifying reality for Ethan Carter, a 12-year-old boy wrongly accused of suspicious behavior just for stepping a few feet into a neighbor's yard. But when flashing lights arrive and fear takes hold, no one expects the twist. His mother pulls up inside a black SUV with the full power of the state behind her. The real crime? Being a black kid in the wrong yard. Ethan Carter is just 12 years old, barely 5 feet tall, 90 pounds soaking wet, and armed with nothing but a basketball and a bright smile. But in the eyes of one neighbor, that was enough to call the cops. It wasn't a break-in, it wasn't vandalism, it was a ball. A simple ball that rolled about 15 feet across the street into someone else's front yard. Ethan, like any kid, jogged over to grab it. He even called out politely, "Excuse me, my ball's over here." No one responded, so he stepped a few feet onto the grass. That's when everything changed. Karen Thompson, a white woman watching from her window, didn't see a child. She didn't hear the politeness. She saw a black boy and assumed the worst. Within minutes, flashing red and blue lights painted the sidewalk. 2 police officers arrived, ready for trouble. The only thing Ethan had done wrong was exist, while black, in a mostly white neighborhood. This is what racial profiling looks like in real life. It's not always loud or violent. Sometimes it's a quiet call to 911, a loaded glance, a neighbor assuming danger based on skin color, not behavior. Ethan didn't commit a crime, but his presence was treated like one. And that's the real danger. When a black child can't retrieve a basketball without being seen as a threat, America has a problem far bigger than property lines. She saw a threat, not a child. What makes someone suspicious? Baggy clothes, loud music, a hoodie, or sometimes just standing on the wrong patch of grass while being black? Karen Thompson didn't ask Ethan Carter a single question. She didn't step outside. She didn't wave or say, "Hey, are you okay?" All she saw was a 12-year-old black boy, barefoot, holding a basketball, standing about 6 feet inside her neatly trimmed front lawn. And in that moment, her mind filled in the blanks. Danger, trouble, criminal. No facts, just fear. Ethan had done everything right. He called out. He waited. He was respectful. He didn't break anything. He didn't steal anything. But none of that mattered, because the assumption had already been made that his presence was suspicious, that he didn't belong. And so Karen picked up the phone, not to ask for help, but to report a black kid causing trouble. Her voice was calm, cold, calculated. Within minutes, 2 squad cars arrived. Officers approached like Ethan was a suspect, eyes cautious, hands near belts. Not because of what he did, but because of how she framed the story. That's the terrifying power of assumptions. In America, it doesn't take a weapon or a threat to summon law enforcement. Sometimes it just takes skin color and silence. One biased thought, one exaggerated call, one child's safety suddenly on the line. We say we believe in innocent until proven guilty, but too often that principle gets rewritten as guilty until proven white. And that's a reality too many families know far too well. She called the cops on a black kid. Then his mom stepped out of a government SUV. The flashing lights had already arrived. 2 officers, hands resting on their duty belts, questioned Ethan with the cautious tone reserved for suspects, not 6th graders. The tension was thick. Ethan, barely 5'1" and 90 pounds, stood frozen, clutching his basketball like it might shield him from what was coming next. That's when they heard it. The low rumble of a government-issued black SUV turning the corner. Not just any car, this one had official tags, tinted windows, and a police escort. It rolled to a stop with the kind of precision that makes everyone go quiet. The back door opened, and out stepped Governor Lisa Carter. Every officer stiffened. Karen Thompson's smug expression evaporated. The crowd that had begun to form now looked on in stunned silence as the most powerful woman in the state strode across the grass in 3-inch heels and a fire in her eyes. She didn't scream. She didn't make a scene. She didn't have to. Her presence alone changed everything. "That child you're accusing?" she said, her voice cold and razor-sharp. "He's my son." The silence that followed was deafening. In an instant, everything Karen thought she knew collapsed. Her assumptions, her confidence, her control. She hadn't just called the cops on any kid. She'd tried to criminalize the son of a sitting governor. And now, the power imbalance she once relied on had flipped on its head. But what Lisa Carter did next wasn't just about defending her son. It was about holding an entire system accountable for every time it judged a child not by their actions, but by their appearance. And this time, the system had picked the wrong family. Why millions of Americans can't look away. This isn't just a story about a basketball, a front yard, or a 12-year-old boy. It's about something deeper, a truth that hits home for far too many American families. Because Ethan Carter could be anyone's son. He could be your nephew, your student, your neighbor's kid. And that's what makes this story so powerful. It's painfully familiar to millions of black and brown families across the United States. It's the talk black parents have to give their kids, not about birds and bees, but about how to survive a police encounter. It's why some mums track their child's every move on GPS. Why some dads rehearse phrases like yes sir and no ma'am with their 11-year-olds, not for manners, for protection. It's also why this story resonates beyond race, because at its core, this isn't just about color. It's about fairness, humanity, and the right to exist without fear. Every decent person, regardless of background, knows something's wrong when a child is treated like a criminal for stepping 6 feet onto a lawn. The moment Governor Carter stood up for her son, she stood up for every parent who's ever felt powerless, for every kid who's ever been told without words, "You don't belong here." This is more than a viral moment. It's a mirror. And for many Americans, it reflects not just someone else's experience, but a growing urgency to change the script, to demand better, to raise the next generation in a country where justice isn't based on skin tone, zip code, or who your mother is. Because when you see your own child in Ethan, you stop asking, "Why does this matter?" and start asking, "What can I do?" This wasn't just a moment. It was a movement waiting to happen. Governor Lisa Carter could have left that park with just her son and her pride. She could have chalked it up as one more teachable moment in a country that too often teaches the wrong lessons. But she didn't. Instead, she did what true leaders and true mothers do. She turned pain into purpose. Standing beside her 90-pound, 5-foot-tall son, who had just faced a wall of judgment for playing with a basketball, Governor Carter looked the entire system in the eye and said, "Enough." She didn't stop at demanding an apology or calling out Karen Thompson for her biased assumptions. She demanded structural change. Citywide anti-bias training, police accountability, community town halls, real reforms, not just band-aids, because moments like these aren't isolated. They're symptoms of a deeper sickness, a cultural reflex that sees black kids as threats before they're ever seen as children. Governor Carter knew this wasn't just about Ethan. It was about every child who has ever had their innocence stolen by suspicion. Every parent who's clenched their jaw watching their child be treated like a problem before they're even old enough to vote. And if nothing changes, then the next Ethan might not be so lucky. That's why this can't just be a story we click on and forget. It has to be a spark, a conversation starter, a reason to show up, speak out, and demand better at your local city council meeting, in your school district, on your street. Because change doesn't begin in headlines. It begins in us. This isn't just a story. It's America in real time. Let's be honest, this isn't 1963. This is today's America, where a 12-year-old black boy can still get police called on him for standing 6 feet into a neighbor's yard. It's happening now. In suburbs, cities, cul-de-sacs with American flags fluttering from front porches. In neighborhoods where people wave during morning walks but still clutch their phone when they see a black child with a basketball. Ethan Carter's story isn't unique. It's just one of the few that got attention. Because this isn't about one kid or one neighbor. It's about the underlying truth we don't like to admit. Bias is alive and well. It doesn't always scream. Sometimes it whispers behind curtains or dials 911 with a calm voice and coded language. And the scariest part? It doesn't take a weapon to turn a child into a target. Sometimes all it takes is being in the wrong yard, the wrong skin tone, the wrong assumptions. So yes, this story is powerful. But what makes it urgent is that it reflects the America we live in, not just the one we read about in textbooks. And if we want a different future for our kids, black, white, brown, or otherwise, it starts with confronting these uncomfortable truths head-on. No more pretending this is rare, no more brushing it off as a misunderstanding. Because if we don't name it, we can't change it. This story was written for today, for the America that wants to be better, but first has to be honest. Why stories like this go viral? and why they matter so much. It's not just the twist that grabs people. The mother arriving in a government SUV, the crowd falling silent, the officer's tone shifting. It's what the story represents that makes it unforgettable. People love stories like Ethan's because deep down, we all crave justice. We want the good guys to win. We want the truth to be heard. And when someone with power, like Governor Lisa Carter, uses it not to protect herself, but to protect her child and challenge a broken system, it restores something in us. These stories give voice to what many families live through, but rarely get to see acknowledged on a public stage. It's the child who's always told to stay in line. The mom who watches her kid walk to school and prays he makes it home safe. The dad who has to explain why being respectful isn't always enough. In a country that often moves too fast to feel, stories like this make us stop. They make us feel. They remind us that behind the headlines are real people, 90-pound kids with big hearts and bigger dreams who shouldn't have to be brave just to be seen. And let's be real, we also love a powerful moment of reckoning. When the system gets called out, when assumptions backfire, when silence is broken by a voice that says, "Not today." These stories resonate because they're more than content. They're mirrors. They show us who we are, who we've been, and who we have the chance to become. In the end, we don't just watch stories like this. We carry them. We share them. And for many of us, they change the way we see the world. Add your voice, because silence has never changed anything. Stories like Ethan Carter's don't just stick with us. They challenge us. They ask us to do more than feel. They ask us to act. You don't have to be a governor to make a difference. You don't need a title, a platform, or a motorcade of black SUVs. You just need your voice, your conscience, and the courage to use both. Because here's the truth. Injustice doesn't only happen in viral videos. It happens in quiet moments, on sidewalks, in school hallways, in neighborhood parks just 50 feet from home. When someone decides that fear matters more than facts, and difference is reason enough to call the cops. But if we want to raise kids in a country where they can be 5 feet tall, 90 pounds, and still feel 10 feet tall with confidence, not fear, we have to speak up. We have to talk about bias at the dinner table, challenge assumptions at work, show up at city council meetings, vote for leaders who believe that every child deserves safety, respect, and the freedom to be a kid. We have to tell our neighbors, our kids, and ourselves, we're not okay with kids like him being treated like criminals. So if this story moved you, don't scroll past it. Share it. Talk about it. Let it be more than content. Let it be a conversation starter. Because silence has never changed anything. But truth? Truth can shake the ground. And when enough of us stand on that truth together, we don't just tell better stories, we build a better America. So join the movement, share the message, and never underestimate what one voice, your voice, can do. One story, one boy, one nation ready to wake up. Ethan's story may have started with a basketball and a front yard, but it ended with a community forced to confront its conscience. A 12-year-old boy, just 5 feet tall and 90 pounds, became the symbol of something much bigger. A nation still learning how to see its children equally. This isn't just a call-out. It's a call to rise up, as neighbors, parents, teachers, and citizens. If you felt something, don't just feel. Act. Share this story. Talk about it. Stand in the gap for the next Ethan. Because the future isn't changed by silence. It's changed by stories, and by people brave enough to tell them.